We had a very late night of shooting last night, followed by a sort of catastrophic airplane malfunction that led to an emergency landing and fire trucks and no sleep whatsoever. So you'll have to bear with me as I sort of get melancholy about the fact that the show is ending. We had a very emotional. We had a very emotional scene that we shot last night. We're starting the process on the show of saying goodbyes, and it's really hard. Okay, that's all. I just wanted to have a little bit of therapy with you. You're here for? Oh, thank you. As the plane was going down. No, everything's okay, everybody's fine. But as the plane was going down, when we got within range, we had to turn around for an emergency landing, and we had to circle out over the water so that there was enough time for the fire trucks to get on the tarmac. And as we were going down, we were all sort of texting, like, oh, I love you, tell the kids they're mine, and then... and Jensen was like, guys, there's 3 engines on the plane, it's fine. Pilots could land this plane with no engines. We're totally fine, nothing to worry about. And then we land and get on the pavement, and Jensen's like, I'm never flying again. He held it together for just long enough, and he's like, I'm out.
It's been as I'm sure a lot of you know, I think probably Misha and whomever else have been speaking about it, but I'm sure it's...
Yeah, what do you know?
We're glad
Very
to see
little?
We're glad to see you.
What?
We're glad to see you.
Glad to see me?
Yeah.
I'm glad to see you.
Yeah.
We heard you were the hero that held together on the plane.
He got outside the plane and was just flapping his arms.
I literally held the wing and the fuselage. It was like, keep it going!
I got this! Yeah.
If I hold it together means just pouring Alex a massive bourbon, then yes, I was helpful and facilitated. Somebody just left.
But I do have to ask about the elephant in the room. What the hell happened with Jared's plane?
Yeah, that. Jared tried to have Misha, Alcal, and Jensen and me killed. And that's all the lawyers will let me say. No, I'm kidding. Well, what did Misha told you the story, right? We've heard the Misha version of the story?
Very good.
Did Misha's story involve, what happened to Misha's story? Because I'm interested, because I actually haven't talked to Misha about it since it happened from Alcal and Jensen, but we're flying along, and the right engine exploded. Went, boom! And I was sitting with my back to that window, so Ackles across me saw the flash, but the noise, and it felt like you got hit. It's like, oh, this is like taking shrapnel on a C-47. It's like, boom! And so the engine blew up, and then the plane started lilting to the right and going, and we went from blah, 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 blah to, And Jensen went up and asked the pilot, hey, we have a situation? And he's like, we most certainly do. Get in your seat, put on your seatbelt, we're doing emergency procedures. We're like, okay, you have my attention, sir. And then we sat there and sat across from each other, Alcal, Jensen, Misha, me, and sort of this, like, and Cliff was there in the back, and we just kind of were there, try to go, all right, just kind of do this is gonna be cool, we're gonna be cool, move while the pilot did the maneuver expertly, by the way, obviously, made the U-turn, and landed the plane safely back at YVR. They said we're gonna make an emergency landing. They obviously did some talk on the radio and then announced to us that we're gonna go back to Vancouver. There was no spot to do it between where we were and Vancouver. It was appropriate for this kind of landing. So we made the U-turn and back we went. And so at one point, and I'm sure the pilots were not as nervous as we were. At that point, we're not having a dialogue with them. They're obviously doing their job. But it was definitely one of those things where it was a moment. You know what I mean? Like we all have those things. I don't know if you've been in a car wreck or you had something where you have that moment and just for a split second you're like, huh. And it just gives you a pause. It just makes you think for a split second of whatever it is. And it had been a very long emotional day on set, doing a lot of hard work, and coming off that and getting on that airplane and having that moment happen, it was, it just gave us all pause. And it was as close to that kind of experience as I want to have again. Because again, I think the pilots, I was talking to Adam Fergus about it yesterday, the pilots, they train for this all the time, right? They run the simulations all the time. And they're ready for these kind of situations. And like I say, again, it was handled expertly. They were calm, cool, collected, got the plane on the ground. It all was exactly as it should be. And I'm so grateful to them for doing all their training, all their work, and all their focus, and all their jobs. It's just for us in the back who don't know, ignorance is painful sometimes. It's not always bliss. And in that situation, not knowing was stressful, so we just were having a kind of a four-way bonding session. And there are funny elements to it in that, we have sort of laughed about things that we said and did in that moment, but there was also maybe I'll just type up a text and be ready to hit send if this shit's gonna hit the ground. You know what I mean? That kind of energy. Which was, so it was just I'm glad I had that experience with those guys. If I'm gonna do that experience, if I'm gonna have that experience, I'm glad I was with four people, with whom I've shared a lot, and for whom I have a tremendous amount of respect. The only bummer would be that the headline would be Jensen Ackles, Misha Collins, and friends died in a plane crash. And when you dug deeper into the article, it would say Alex Calvert and Rob Benedict were also on the plane. And even in death, they would confuse us. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I tell that story and it sounds really serious, but I think that's only because I'm rarely serious. At the end of the day, it was an experience. I'm glad we had the experience. There was a moment where when we got off the plane, there was a decision to be made, like, what are we doing now? Are we going back? Are we not? Are we getting on another plane? And we had a bit of a split camp in terms of what mentally and emotionally where we were in the space, but it was, I can say that it was both, I can't speak to Jensen, to Misha's conversations with his family or Alcal's, but both, Jensen and Rich both went off and called their wives. And both their wives said, get on a plane, go to Las Vegas. Because, separately, both our wives said, I called my wife.
Get back on the horse.
Yeah, I called my wife and she said, what are you gonna do? I told her the whole story and she said, what are you gonna do? And I said, I don't know. She said, what's Jensen doing? I said, I think he's getting on a plane. She's like, you're hanging up, you're calling Jensen, and you're getting on the plane with Jensen. Which was not the answer I expected. And I called Jensen and he's like, Daniil said the same thing. Didn't see that coming. But it was the get back on the horse thing. It was like, get back on the horse. Get back on the horse. Don't let anxiety win the day because this happens. It was solvable. The plane did what it was supposed to do. The pilots did what they were supposed to do. And I'm standing on a convention stage in Las Vegas, Nevada, telling the story. So, that's the story. That is the story for now, and it'll get funnier when I tell it again later. Thank you.
So glad you're all right, man. That would have been.
I am too, and I wanted.
That would have been a big effing bummer.
Oh man, boy, really boned photo ops with Ron Rich.